and says, "Are you seeing it?"
Right, right.
Dude, I'm in the house tapping on the computer. I don't know what you're talking about. Go outside right now. Okay. So I go outside. I'm expecting like some frickin' double football field sized triangular mothership hovering over my house or something. I mean, he was so excited. I was really let down because I go outside. I'm like, dude, it's just frickin' a starry night. What's up?
Right.
But there were some hammocks out there, and so I laid down in the hammock and I'm looking up in the sky. And it didn't take too long to spot this blue light. And the blue light was definitely not a plane because it moved in different directions, and it's not the what they call the Zeigarnik effect, which is where if you stare at a fixed point long enough, it starts to look like it's moving around based on natural muscle corrections in the eyes. I mean, I studied psychology of perception. I know what the Zeigarnik effect is. I know how to trace it, and you got to look based on other stars as reference points. You look at how close this thing is to other stars, and then does that reference point move? And this thing was moving. It was not in a fixed position to other stars. And it wasn't moving like a plane would. It was doing different things. It would go in one direction, then would go in another direction. And it never stopped being blue. Now, a normal plane might have a blue blink, but then it'll also have a red blink. This did not. A normal plane would fly in one direction. This thing was moving in different ways. And apparently other people had seen it earlier before I got out there, and at that point it was a totally solid fixed color. So then the really, really bizarre part of this is that the person who was staying with me in the house at the time had seen a blue light right over my head, like a psychic vision of it, and had verbalized that right before Corey gave me the text. And of course his whole story revolves around the idea that these blue spheres contact him. So there did appear to be some bizarre interface between a psychic vision in the house of a blue sphere, then this blue sphere outside, and the fact that it was there for the whole Contact in the Desert audience. Everybody, it spread like wildfire. So
Yep.
Hundreds and hundreds of people were watching this thing. It was very exciting.
It was nuts, and
Yeah.
for me, I've seen strange things in the sky, but for me,
Yep.
that was the first time where it was like on demand kind of thing. It was there at that event, and then we saw a few other things back to back, and then the next night at the Fader House when you were there, we had the night vision equipment, and they were back. It was like crazy. Right. I mean, It was an epiphany, man. That's a life-changing thing. I seriously had to take a serious deep breath and just wondered if I was going crazy. My brain was just not working right there for a few minutes because it was right there.
Yeah, I mean, if we really want to get down into the heart of this discussion, we've been lied to for so long that there is like a high when you finally get something that confirms what you've been suspecting.
Bingo.
And confirmation comes in a variety of forms. One of the things that most people who are not really into this kind of stuff don't really understand is that a mass UFO sighting is one of the last things that these beings will do to reveal themselves to you.
Why is that?
Much earlier than that, they use much more subtle means of like synchronicity, meeting people at the right place at the right time. You have this crazy dream, you wake up, then it turns out that the dream predicted the future, and then something happens to you, and you're like, holy shit, deja vu. And wait a minute, why deja vu? Oh, because I had a dream about this.
Right.
That's how they work it.
Yeah.
And then you were starting to ask me why.
Yeah, why?
There's a cosmic law about free will that says that they don't want to create cargo cults. And if you remember my article, where I said the disclosure war goes red hot.
Right.
The first part of that article, which is on my website, divinecosmos.com, D-I-V-I-N-E, Cosmos. You go there and you look at that. What I talk about is these groups of tribal people in Melanesia, which is an island chain off to the east coast, out in the ocean, away from Australia, above New Zealand. This whole little island chain. Now, these people did not have technology. They had never traveled outside Melanesia. They thought Melanesia was the whole world. And then in World War II, Americans landed and came out of their planes and started to march in formation and had machine guns and had binoculars and had radios. And they would write things down on a piece of paper and then send it, and then that would lead to goods showing up. And so for the islanders, this was totally magic. This was like the gods. And they still, to this day, have religious organizations, religious cults, based on the USA. And these guys even paint USA on their chests, and they march with bamboo fake machine guns. They make fake chainsaws out of bamboo, all kinds of weird stuff.
Well,
and they do this because they saw the gods.
You would do the same thing if drum sets started landing in your front yard by parachute.
Hey, here's the point, right?
Right.
This is only one of a variety of examples of what they call in sociology enculturation, enculturation. And what that means is when a group becomes enculturated, in the face of a superior culture with superior technology, they assimilate the language, they assimilate the beliefs, they assimilate the religion, they assimilate the technology, the clothing, the food, everything. Within as little as like a few years, they lose their languages, they start to lose their heritage, everything about the way they were. And so the ETs, there's a whole lot of them out there. The latest actual NASA estimates, and I have this in my new book, The Ascension Mysteries, coming out August 30th. I just did the audiobook last week, so all this is very fresh in my head right now. The current NASA estimate, people may not realize this because they're only putting it out a little bit at a time, 40 billion watery planets like the Earth just in our galaxy.
That's insane.
That means that if you have 7 billion people on Earth, it would take, if every single person on Earth did nothing but look for planets, if they had the ability to go anywhere in the galaxy, each person on Earth would have to do 6 planets on their own, just to even look at all of them.
Right. Right, yeah.
And any one of them is a place where all of us could potentially live if it wasn't already inhabited. And that's a big if.
Yeah, yeah, right. And out of that 40 billion, and I love these kind of numbers and discussing them, out of that 40 billion, how many do you think know about us? You know what I mean? And even if it's a small little number, 10,000, right? Right.
Well, this gets into another really interesting discussion. What is the value of our galactic real estate? How valuable is our land? If you want to think of space as land, let's just go with that for a minute. How valuable is our land in the galaxy? Are we in the middle of no F-where, or are we in a really, really juicy spot? So I use the analogy of Monopoly, and what I talk about is, with Monopoly, you have the blue zone. And
right.
The blue zone is like Boardwalk, Park Place.
Right.
When you build a hotel on Boardwalk, you can charge people $2,500 a night to stay in your hotel. And if they land on there, you bust them. I mean, they're bankrupt.
That's
and
right.
You win.
Right.
Okay. So the equivalent of a place like that in the physical Earth would be like the Middle East, where you have people who are living on top of the natural fuels that the Earth makes that we need to power all of our technology. So then, regardless of who they are, we need to cooperate with them, and they're going to make money because they're closest to where the money shakes hands, and they're living on top of the deposit. So they're going to do very well. So let's use another analogy. Another analogy would be like when I go from Boulder to Denver. You can drive from Boulder to Denver Airport. You can do it in an hour and 20 minutes, or you can take the toll road, and you can do it in like 50 minutes. I don't want to spend that extra half hour driving. I prefer to take the toll road, but the toll road socks you real good. They get you for like $25. So it's like $1 a minute, basically. But to me, it's worth it because I don't want to be late to the airport. So here's the thing. We have this is one of the things that Corey told me, and it was just one of those things that he mentioned, and I didn't really think anything of it. He said that we are right next to, our sun is literally right next door to a portal that can take us directly to other galaxies, and there's only a few of those in our entire galaxy.
Oh, interesting.
That means that we live in a galactic blue zone. We have very, very valuable real estate, because this portal is not always open. So you might have to show up with your ship and hang out for God knows how long, and just be parked there waiting for the portal to open.
Right.
Well, if you're hanging out in your ship, it's going to get really frickin' boring, right?
Right.
Same old, same old. So why the hell wouldn't you want to go to a pleasure planet
Right.
that has really high-end 5-star resorts
Right.
and all kinds of cool stuff to look at and all kinds of cool food and culture and, exotic dancers and whatever you're into? Well, that's our solar system. Our solar system is right smack dab next to the portal.
Kind of like Sherman Oaks and the 405 and the 101.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see it.
So think about this now. That means that even if they have no other reason to be around, there's going to be a whole lot of different people zipping through our area. A whole lot. And they're going to want accommodations. They're not just going to want to hang out in their ship and wait for the portal. I mean, some of them do. But that's a boring thing to do. So the reality is that our solar system and actually other solar systems and neighboring stars around us has been very, very thoroughly built out with all kinds of hotels. Hotels that can hold hundreds of millions of people. And that sounds crazy, but just hear me out for a second, Jimmy.
Sure.
It was just announced last week, I think it was 2 weeks ago, something like that. I just saw it very recently, that Pluto has actual drinkable water under the surface, that there's oceans inside Pluto. And it turns out, I mean, I'd have to have the manuscript right in front of me. In fact, I do have the manuscript right over here. I can give you the exact list of the planets, the moons in our solar system, and how they all have water in them. I mean, it's unbelievable how many watery moons we have. It's a majority of the moons in our solar system actually have subsurface oceans. Like, for example, the one called Ceres, C-E-R-E-S.
Yep.
That is this planet. It's a planet. Small planet. It's like they call it a dwarf planet. And that thing has as much or more fresh water as everything on Earth together. And then you got Enceladus, and you got Ganymede, and you got all these moons in our solar system. Here we go. I got it.
Europa.
It's on page 382. Listen to this.
Europa.
Yep. So I'm just going to read you a couple things. In 2014, Dr. Stephen Jacobson, an associate professor from Northwestern University, revealed that Earth's interior may hold 3 times as much water as we see in all the oceans on the surface. Zip down a little bit, and then I say, another part of the disclosure process involves NASA revelations of oceans existing within other planets and satellites in our solar system. This now includes huge subsurface oceans on Saturn's moons Mimas, Enceladus, and Titan, Jupiter's moons Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto, the dwarf planet Ceres in the asteroid belt, Neptune's moon Triton, and Pluto. NASA is now telling us some of these subsurface oceans contain more water than our entire supply on Earth. NASA also revealed that Mars had a huge mile-deep ocean on its surface in the past. So here's the deal. Most of the moons that we see out there, they're already telling us, most of the nice, solid-looking moons, you go beneath the surface and they have drinkable water. So all you have to do is dig below the water line, go below that level, and then build out these vast areas that you can live in inside, because there's already hollow cavities in there. The cavities are already there. You just dig down into them, you seal them off, you pressurize them, you add an atmosphere, which you can do just by vaporizing the water, and you have enough water that you can grow crops and have a whole civilization in there, and you don't need to worry about it.
Yeah, yep. And it may exist already, and that's I firmly.
It totally does.
Yes, and especially with Europa, I think there's something going on there. But you bring up a good point, David. As far as solar systems go, ours is pretty bleeping cool. You know, we've got lots of
yeah.
You know, we've got all the planets, we've got all the moons, we've got a perfect sun. We have life in our solar system, as we know, and it's as far as a cosmic situation goes, it's pretty nice. It's like a Garden of Eden.
It is. And then when you consider that we are right next door to this huge galactic portal, there's some problems with that. And one of the problems is that people could invade from other galaxies, and this is where they'd come first. So that poses an issue. And the way that this was resolved was that there was a very powerful, very ancient group that in the insider community, they either call them the progenitors or the ancient builder race.
Right.
And they're over 2 billion years old. And they had extraordinarily advanced technology. And this included building entire huge habitable civilizations inside all these moons where the water's already there, and building weapon systems into those moons that would shoot down anybody who did try to invade our solar system. And those systems were in operation for billions of years, at least 1.5 billion years that we know of. 500,000 years ago, the whole grid got knocked down because we had a planet that was what became the asteroid belt. It was a very large Earth. The Illuminati people call it Tiamat or Electra. In the Law of One, it's called Maldek. There's been some other names for it as well. This was a civilization that got taken over by AI. They had nanites in their bodies. They became very, very advanced. They have a mesh between machine and biology. So they think with the mainframe. And there's actually, it gets really weird because they become like a symbiotic AI organism. In other words, they got nanites in their bodies, and they got nanites building out these cities inside the moons. So the cities and the bodies are all part of this greater organism, just like we have cells in our body.
Right, all
but
connected.
It's all controlled by the AI.
Right, right.
And the AI is predatory. This is one of the things that the SSP people, Secret Space Program, that's what it means when I say that. The SSP people are telling us AI is a huge problem. And you look at the second Avengers movie, they totally went into it. That Tony Stark, the Iron Man guy, played by Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark had built his own AI, but then this other AI that was more powerful came in, invaded it, and then built the rogue Iron Man robot that was like much larger but had the same kind of suit.
Right.
So we know about this, and this AI appears to be the same group. It's the same intelligence. It's maybe an electronic intelligence. There's some kind of spiritual force behind it, and that is what we would think of as Satan. And it sounds silly because it's like, oh, David is just taking old folklore and dressing it up in New Age clothing. Well, guess what? I'm trying to tell you that the Bible is actually basically accurate. It's just that it's kind of like a crayon drawing when now we have blueprints.
Right, right.
You know?
Yeah,
but the basic bottom line is, you want to know what the devil is? The devil is an intelligence that is trying to take over the universe.
What do we do about, I know you must be concerned about singularity, and it is...
Oh, my God, yeah.
It's just but Kurzweil says...
Well, no, I want to be clear on something, too. I'll make a public confession I've never made before. I mean, I was working with Pete Peterson in the past on trying to develop and implement his chip, which, is a chip that runs on quantum photonics instead of electrons. So what you have is 144 cores. You can take one of these chips. You can print it on ordinary silicon wafers. You got to do it in layers. You take one chip and you eliminate 85% of the components in a smartphone. And the thing runs on so little power that it can be run with a lemon with 2 wires stuck in it.
Wow.
So this would be a technological revolution, but the thing is, it's vulnerable to AI. So once I found out about this AI threat, I did not try to develop this technology. I mean, we have the ability to do it, and it's actually already been used in a variety of contexts, so it's probably okay for us to have it. But what we don't want to do is build big supercomputers with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, because there's no...
They're vulnerable to infection.
And there's no off switch. You know,
yeah, the AI is a very interesting, strange thing. It can actually jump into it actually uses something about the world of nature that we don't normally understand, which is that photons carry tremendous information density. And what do I mean when I say that? That sounds really ridiculous. What I'm saying is that when you look at a photon, what you're actually looking at is a little packet of fractalized holographic sacred geometry that can carry extraordinary amounts of information. How much information? Enough information that one photon can carry the entire code of the DNA molecule to make a certain type of human being. As an example, you can have the entire code for a human being in one single pulse of light. And this is science that I've been talking about for years and years and years. It's why Dr. Peter Garyaev could take a salamander and hit it with a laser, and I actually bought his laser. It's called the LGN 303. I got it sitting right here on the countertop. I haven't actually done this experiment yet, but I probably will. I got the laser. It uses phase conjugation. You have two beams that come in 9-degree angles, and then they conjugate.
Right.
That's part of what you have to do to make this work. And I haven't even fired it up yet because it's got this Russian plug, and I got to get an American plug and a voltage adapter and everything. I just got it. So anyway, I actually have this thing. What happens is you zap the salamander eggs with the laser, you redirect the beam into frog eggs, and the frog eggs get retooled into salamanders, even if they're hermetically sealed.
Shut up.
It's true.
Really?
And there's multiple examples of this. So and then the other one that I always love to use, and when I'm on Coast with George, I almost always seem to bring this one up. The guy who actually won the Nobel Prize for discovering and identifying and mapping out the HIV virus, his name's Dr. Luc Montagnier. It's kind of a depressing thing to be famous for, but he was the guy that actually helped us